Hey guys, I have been looking at our tomatoes that I started from seed and they aren't looking the greatest. I'm not super hopeful for all of them to make it outside, and I kind of wish I would have planted a few more. So I was thinking about making some seeds, but I came out today just to walk the garden, see what's going on. And my tomatoes from last year have some volunteers in the garden, so I'm really excited. Let me show you. So I have a couple in here. I have this one. This looks like it's gonna be one. I have this one down here and maybe one more over there. So my goal for today is actually to transplant them. So we used this bed last year for tomatoes, but this year we're gonna be using the one over there. And so I'm gonna go ahead and dig these up and I'm gonna put them in the other bed. That way they don't get too big and I can't transplant them. So let's talk about the basics of tomatoes. So the first thing you want to know when you're going to plant tomatoes, you're going to grow some seeds, you're going to go buy some at the hardware store or wherever you're purchasing your plants. You need to know if you're getting a determinate or an indeterminate plant. So a determinate tomato is going to grow to a determined size. It's going to have a determined number of blooms. It is very specific. An indeterminate will just keep growing. And so an indeterminate, you can prune them and you're not going to lose harvest on them, versus a determinate, if you prune it, you're actually going to lose some of your harvest because you're going to be cutting off some of those determined branches. And so I'm doing a mix this year of some determinate and some indeterminate. Last year I did all indeterminate, which went really well for me. I'm probably not doing that many determinate this year. I just wanted to show you a little bit about tomatoes. So I mentioned earlier in the video that some of my tomatoes aren't doing very well. And so here are two of my plants. So obviously this one's doing very good, it's very strong. And then we have this little guy, he is not doing so good. Now I did plant him a little bit lower yesterday, so he was a little taller than this, but these were all the leaves that he had on him. And I am not really sure. I feel like maybe this plant got some kind of fungal gnats or something going on with it. So I put some hydrogen peroxide in all of the soil for my seeds, a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and water to just kind of kill off anything that could be going on. And then I replanted this one and another one, which I felt like, you know, potentially were doing the worst, and just put them in some potting mix to hopefully give them some extra nutrients and things like that. We'll see how they recover. There's a chance that they don't, and that's okay. I'll start a few more seeds just in case, but I did get those volunteers today, which makes me super excited. The next thing about tomatoes, you have indeterminate and determinate. You need to decide which ones you want and then plant those. The next thing is if you get volunteers, so it's basically plants have fallen and their seeds are growing naturally, like nature intended, and we call those volunteers. And so if you get volunteers growing in your garden, chances are they're a hybrid if you had multiple types of tomatoes out the year before. So basically what happens is a pollinator comes and pollinates both tomato plants, and when that mixture happens, it doesn't affect the tomato that grows that year, but the seeds inside of it can cross pollinate and become a hybrid. And so if you had a pollinator going from each kind and mixing the pollen. And so likely I have some kind of hybrid, and so I'm interested to see what grows off of those volunteers. Hopefully they stick around, and I'm really excited just to see what happens out there with those. And it'll just be a little experiment, right? So either we'll love the tomatoes and we'll hate them, and no big deal. So I'm really excited, especially because I just have some of these that aren't looking very good. And now I don't need to start too many extra seeds because they would be pretty behind at this point. The other thing I'm excited about with that is usually volunteers are very strong seeds, and so they'll probably do pretty well. And so I'm really excited about that. I think that's all I want to talk about tomatoes today. I'm sure I will have videos on tomatoes again because I love them. And thank you for stopping in.